So hello friends, this is the part 2 of the video on rules for office efficiency. So we have covered 2 rules before in the part 1 and this one will be covering the remaining 3 rules. Hope you enjoy it. Now talking about the third rule which we have is knowledge management. As in the first case I mentioned that clustering of work should be done and one particular person is doing the entire GST1 thing and one particular person doing the entire MC related thing. So what it brings, the disadvantage it brings is that we have a lot of dependency on that person, because if that person is on leave, there is no one to do it. So for remedying that particular aspect, the third point rule, that is knowledge management, is very important, because any company should be person agnostic. What do you mean a person agnostic? Is that whether any person should not be like indispensable. Any person who is there in an organization as an employee, company should not be over dependent on that particular employee's capability. Like the work which he is doing should be documented somewhere, should have proper steps written at what steps he followed, and a proper SOPs that what are the things he does for so it is always good to encourage your employees or person working with you to make write-ups that how you have been doing this work, conduct learning and training sessions in between. Like you can have a small chai time learning sort of thing where you are just discussing the ideas, not the ideas also, but discussing how the way you do the work, so that you can say that I do in this way. So this will also what help it's also help you in discussing some better ways of performing the work. Process documentation is a very important thing that you, even a small organization, not I'm talking about the a big company, but even a small organization should have this process documentation, like asking their employees to document how they do the process with screenshots, with in a proper PDF file, that okay, this is the steps I follow, these are the, and document learnings and mistakes. These are the one critical areas, that whenever you get across any error, if this type of error comes in an income tax portal, so what do you do, so that if after a year the same error comes, you have something to look back, key okay, whether we have faced this error before. So all these mistakes, whatever we did, all this should be documented at a certain document level, so that you are not dependent on that particular person to be in the office to get the work done. Even though he was doing that work, but if someday he's not in office, then using that process documentation, with the use of those learning sessions which they had, anyone at your office is able to do that work. So this is the knowledge management is one of the key things which I believe most of the even the big organizations tend to miss. And it's not only about creating your SOPs and policies about how procurement is to be done and how sales is to be done, but it is about how reports are being generated by that particular employee, the key reports, how that is being generated, how supervision is being done by him. So that is the level of documentation that should be taking place to increase your work efficiency. The fourth rule which I mentioned is the time and motion study. So what we actually try to mean by saying time and motion study is not about the factories where we used to do the time and motion study, that okay, he's covering this many distance, so he should do like this. That's not time and motion study I want to mention here, but it is again a similar kind of analysis even in the field of finance or even in your admin office. So it may be that any HR reports which are being generated, or any MIS which is being generated, that might be following some process, some steps which will be overlapping with the steps followed by some other employee to make the same MIS, or to make some different MIS. So these overlapping steps needs to be identified, that and this needs a detailed level of discussion with the employees who are doing their work. So you can just, so that's why I first mentioned that identifying the major manual tasks. So what are the major manual tasks that are being done by the employees, that are being done manually? So it may be any supervision related, any reports related, any MIS related, or any other and any other control which they have done, which they do on a daily basis, replying to emails or any other manual tasks. They have to identify what are the major manual tasks, and major can be in terms of complexity, that it's very complex to do it, or it can be it's very simple but it occupies a lot of time. It may be time complexity or effort complexity. So it may be either of those. Then you have to discuss that process in groups, that okay, this is the process I do. And then whenever you have that the third rule of knowledge management, whenever you have the training sessions and learning sessions, that time you can have these processes to be discussed in groups, that okay, this is the process I do. And then there may be many eliminative you can repetitive steps which you should eliminate, try to eliminate. Okay, this is the repetitive, this I already have done till here, so you can use my report till here and you can work on that. So this will try to eliminate some other steps which are redundant, and then try to bring down the time which is required by the officer or by the concerned employee to do the work. And next is making master documents. So what we mean by master documents is, actually it can vary, means depends on how you use it. So I say master documents as documents which has a list of everything. By this I mean that if I need the total sales of a particular client, I don't want to go to his each and every sales register to pick up the sales. What instead I can better have is that I have a particular one Excel file which is a combined GSTR1 month wise combined GSTR1 of that particular client, so that at any point of time I want to see that how the sales have been moving, or how what amounts were filed in each return, that we can do. So making a master document is again consolidating the information which are lying there into different sheets into a single one. Now again there is a limit to how much you can do that into a single thing, but it's always good that the major points or the major things are always maintained at a master document, maintained at a single document. So these things we'll see when we move forward and we discuss about some tools. Then we will see that how master documents are made and how they help in bringing more speed to your work. So these are the time and motion study that we should study about how things are being done, how steps are being done. So breaking down each step, and then in groups discussing whether any repetitive steps can be eliminated. These are the fourth rule, and the fifth rule is about automation. So this is the thing, because a lot of people think whenever I talk about office efficiency, they think that okay, it means you have to automate, we have to bring in technology. So it's not that. Whenever we talk about efficiency, there are so many other things. As you saw, the fifth, it comes about automation. There are other many other things in where you do not need any technology, you don't need Python, Excel, VBA coding, or Excel query, anything. It's simply about managing your works. Okay, that's working standards and learnings, documentation, all those things. The fifth is automation, and I kept it at last just to show that it is not the first thing that you should be thinking about when you think of office efficiency. There are many other things that you should do. Now, when you talk about automation, again, as I said, that identify logical tasks, that which tasks are those where I do not require human subjectivity. Like if you are working in an environment like tax interpretation, law interpretation, then definitely there are very less logical activity that you do. There are a lot of human subjectivity and human interpretation. So that tasks are to be eliminated. You have to do those tasks in which you are just like copying pasting reports, and you're just making some logical computations rather than any subjectivity involved. Challenge the status quo. Whenever there is a task which is being done by your predecessor in a certain way, just look out of it and just see that whether there are some other ways of doing it. Why it is taking like 2 hours to make this report? What are the 2 hours, breaking down the 2 hours thing, like 40 minutes for this, 20 minutes for this. So and then you will find out that what are the major thing involved. Look for any ready-made application. There is very possible that there are some ready-made applications to do the work which you have been doing. Okay, so that you need to just figure out. You just need to simply Google it. You don't need to be an extra R&D sort of thing. Just simply Google it, that whether I can do this, how to do this. So they will give you some way of doing. And fourth is again learning some automation tools, which we will be discussing in our series later on, which will involve using first you can like using some basic excels and all those things. So whenever I say automation, so again it becomes a question like how do we do automate? Do we send all our employees to learn Python or to learn coding, or how do we do? So there is a simple milestone like a graphic timeline which I have made, that this is a basic structure of how you should be thinking of going towards automation in your office. So the first is like determining the task. So this is one of the key activities where I think we don't focus on a lot. Identify the main mundane task in your office which you do on a day-to-day basis. Okay, and you wish that okay, this could be automated. I don't want to do this thing because it takes a lot of time. There's no any human brain, or there's no any value addition which I'm doing. Just simply if this then that. So logical task, you have to identify these things. So this is one of the first thing. Second is do some research about break that task into multiple activity which you do, and just see whether any activity out of those tasks can be automated, like can be done with some tools or with some programs, with some basic excels. Okay, so that do some research on for that. Third is, if there is no any such thing you can do on Excel without using an app, then you search for a third party app. Okay, that whether there is a third party app to do this particular thing. Again, it should be freely available. Usually, I mean, even if it is available on subscription, you can think around and go around it and think of that. And that's a third party app thing. And if you see there's no any third party app developed to do that particular thing, then you will have to come a bit about making your own programs and making your own apps. So again, at the starting it might sound intimidating that you have to make your own app, but again, if you there are a lot of videos on my channel where I have said that making an app or making our app to do something is a very like a logical step process, and it's not a very thing that you have to first learn everything and then only do it. So first is that using the code modules written by others. So there are many, maybe there are some apps which are not into an app form, but the logics behind it are written somewhere. You can use that for, but for that you need to know some basic coding. Okay, basic on the Python, all that will be required. And then the last comes when you start making your own applications, when you start making your own code. So that comes with practice. So these are the main like steps of determining what task you would like to do. And yeah, and this is about the automation thing which we can do in your annual organization. So again, summing up the rules: work standardization, identifying the major repetitive works, and then clustering of the similar nature of work and the standard formats and templates. Centralize and decentralize. Centralize the things of supervision and decentralize the things of action, where you have to take the action, decentralize those aspects, and the supervision things should be centralized. Knowledge management, a very important thing, I believe is missed by multiple corporates. So that one thing should be studied, knowledge management. Second is time and motion study of how each activity is being done, and then identifying whether there are any we can eliminate any repetitive steps. And the fifth, then it comes down to automate. That way you have to bring in some RPA tools, bring in some Excel tools, bring in some other tools which you can use. So these were the rules for any office to be efficient. And next we will be discussing about the tools, but not today. Some other day we will be discussing about what many tools we have. And I hope this brought an insight for you that how you can go around doing an automation in your organization, in your office. And if you wish to discuss any this point in detail regarding your own organization, you can definitely contact me on this number and on this Gmail ID. That's always available, and I would love to hear from you about what things you would like to automate and how do you go around bringing office efficiency in your workplace. So that was it for today. I hope you liked it. A bit different video than what we used to have. So do give your response, do give your feedback on the comment section. Would love to receive it. And till then, stay tuned. See you again with another video. Thank you.